United we're as strong as a mountain.
This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek, and we're talking today about some of the circumstances leading up to action by Teamster rank and file members and locals throughout the state of California. And one of the locals that we're talking about is Local 399 with Michael Sparks, who's a member. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Oh, thank you very much, Steve.
So, Michael, there is going to be a rally on Sunday, the 14th. You and other Teamsters are supporting this action. What's going on, and why have you come together with other locals around the state?
You know, what's taken place is that in California, we've been finding that the election process has not been a democratic and fair election process in the locals in California, and that the company that is running the elections, Unilect, is once we all kind of came together and started sharing our stories, there's a lot of similarities that this election company is not giving the rank and file membership of the Teamsters fair and equal elections across the board. And then once we started to do our research, we found out, that this company is obviously having some tax issues and has been for a couple of years now, and that the federal or the California Franchise Tax Board has revoked their license to do business in the state of California. Thus, for almost 2 years now, making any election that's been ran by Unilect, invalid. But besides that, the election process and the campaign trail, I think what most of the members in this coalition have ran into is that the election process is not fair for the rank and file members that decide to run an opposition slate. When you have an issue with the pre-election violation, the bylaws state that you're supposed to go to your local e-board, and they are the election supervisors in charge of your local's election. And then if you want to protest a decision that e-board makes, which most of the time they rule in favor of themselves and deny your pre-election protest, the next step would be to go to Joint Council 42 and file with them. And I know that our slate, the Our Union, Our Future slate that ran in opposition to Lindsay Doherty and her team in Teamsters Local 399, we filed 6 pre-election protests during the campaign trail, and at every avenue we had the protest and the door slammed in our face everywhere we went.
And one of the issues that workers are facing is they feel they're not getting representation, and they're facing an entrenched union leadership that doesn't want to move. Is that your feeling as well as a Teamster in 399?
Yes. Our principal officer, or secretary treasurer, as is their correct title, Lindsay Doherty, is part of Sean O'Brien's, e-board in the International. And we are running into a situation where it seems like the membership's not being heard. That is one of the main things that my campaign ran on, is that the representation and our e-board in office is being paid huge amounts of money, and they're not representing the membership in the manner that they should be representing them. And they're not accounting for the expenditures at the locals that we spoke out in great length during the campaign trail. So that is one of the biggest things that we tried to bring in front of our membership during this election cycle.
And right now, California workers in the film industry, there's a economic crisis, work's leaving. Also, AI is a real threat. What is being done to mobilize and defend the workers in these industries? Because there's a really existential crisis for a lot of workers in this industry.
It's kind of it's a huge issue right now in our industry. AI is a huge threat that's going to take jobs away from union members across Los Angeles. The outsourcing of film and television to other countries with cheaper labor, where they don't have to pay union labor, they don't pay for healthcare, they don't pay for retirement benefits. So it's tremendously cheaper for these American companies to take an American product that they're producing and go overseas with those jobs. We obviously, as union members, want to stand up to that and fight for the American worker. But what I've found and what I was speaking out about is that the actions of our leadership have also, this is what I tried to convey to our membership, contributed to the movie studios deciding to take projects offshore. There was some rhetoric that Lindsay Doherty put on the national stage, which she said to all of the studios and the producers, if you don't like, what we're presenting to you, you can take your damn job somewhere else. And, unfortunately, they heard her loud and clear. And I think it contributed. It's not 100% the fault of our union leadership, but I think it also contributed to the decision-making process for so many projects to go overseas at this point. So we have to be careful and walk a fine line with the rhetoric that we're presenting to the people that provide us the jobs that we're dependent on.
And were you surprised that the situation of democratic election process in your local was also taking place in other locals throughout California?
Yeah, that was, I was just gonna accept my loss, and I had some nagging suspicions, looking at how the election process took place, what happened on the ballot count day, some things that just didn't add up to me after the campaign trail, and hearing so many members express their dissatisfaction with the current administration, that they wanted and were eager for change and leadership. And then to see the ballot count come back at almost a 3-1 margin was, it was a hit to the gut. And I was going to just say, okay, be a good member. You took a loss, and go back to work. And if you decide to run again in 3 years, then you regroup and you learn from your mistakes and you move forward. And then I got reached out to by some of our members in the coalition, and they said, hey, I think you should come and sit in on one of these Zoom meetings and listen to some of the other stories from the other locals in California that have been dealing with Unilect in this 2025 election cycle. And once I did that, I heard from 7, 8 other locals in California that were experiencing the same nagging suspicions that I had during the election counting process. And it gave me strength to join this coalition and put my story forth, and stand tall with the rank and file members that are coming forth and saying, that this 2025 election cycle, in our belief, has been corrupt. That the company that is running it has major tax issues, which leads them to be susceptible to a pay-to-play election company, and you have to present your membership as you have a duty as the leadership of each local to present your membership with a fair election process. And that is the duty of every secretary treasurer in the Teamsters. And if you can't vet the companies that are running your elections, then you're at fault for what has taken place. And I believe that firmly at this point.
And California has a significant share of Teamsters, 300,000. There are 200,000 in District 42. Sean O'Brien is running for re-election next year. There's going to be a convention. Is he aware of the situation of Unilect and the problem that company has, that they don't have a license to do business in California?
I believe the coalition all sent certified letters to him about a week ago now. So I'm pretty sure that all 30 members that sent an individual certified letter have arrived on his desk. So yeah, I think there's a flood of information that he's searching for now, that all of this information is being presented to him. But the real question, I think, is, was he aware of this situation before the election cycle? And did he allow this to take place, knowing full well that Unilect was not qualified to do business in the state of California? I think that's the bigger question here.
And are you demanding that there be new elections in these locals?
Yes, I believe that every election that has been ran since April of 2024 under Unilect as the election company should be disqualified. And I'm actually asking for this to go a step further. I believe there needs to be a investigation on a criminal investigation, because if there was wrongdoing and there was money exchanged to influence the outcome of these elections, I believe there should be charges brought on anyone that did that to win and retain their seat in the local offices.
And you're going to be having a press conference at the office of Ron Bonta, the Attorney General of California. What are you calling him to do?
Well, Ron Bonta, at this point, we've gone to every department that we can go to. So now we're escalating it to the Attorney General's office. And he has the power to subpoena all the information from the locals, investigate this with law enforcement. And if there is wrongdoing, then I believe charges should be brought against the people that perpetrated this against the rank and file membership of the Teamsters.
Well, many of the officials, as you know, are Democrats in California and take money from unions, not just the Teamsters. SEIU, AFSCME, they give money to these politicians, including Rob Bonta. Are you concerned that he's going to look more at where his money's coming from than doing his job?
If you're a man that is standing up for union labor in the state of California and you're taking political donations from labor unions, then you should also be able to investigate a labor union when accusations are brought against those departments. And that's what we're asking him to do. Stand on your morals, do your job, and investigate this wrongdoing. And let's get to the bottom and find out how deep this corruption goes.
And one of the issues, ongoing issues, not just in the Teamsters and other unions as well, is intimidation, retaliation against members who even want to look at the bylaws of locals. I mean, there are many locals probably that would not even have elections if it wasn't required by law.
Yeah, I ran into that right after our locals election. We had a general membership meeting, and our principal officer, Lindsay Doherty, made the statement in front of the membership, 200 in attendance and 600 on Zoom, that our pre-election protest cost the local $50,000. And she's doing that to not only intimidate the membership and also paint me as the bad guy for exercising my right to run an opposition slate to the incumbent or her administration. And that's a form of intimidation. She also made the statement that anybody or any member that speaks up on social media will be unhireable in this industry. And that, once again, is intimidation, retaliation against me for running a slate against her and her administration. And that is one of the main things that my slate was speaking about. And I believe that that kind of rhetoric and that starts from the top. That starts from the O'Brien administration. If it's acceptable at the international level, then everybody that works for O'Brien thinks it is acceptable at their local offices. Excuse me, and it needs to stop. And you're not going to intimidate the membership. You guys work for us. We pay your bills, we pay your salary, and you should answer to us whether we have questions, we want to see the bylaws and we want to be educated on the bylaws, or we just want to come in and audit the books. We have that right as the rank and file membership of Teamsters in this country. You guys work for us. Don't forget it, because when you do, something like this coalition happens and we come after you guys.
And this is the first time in the history of California, largest state in the country, that members from different locals and officers, some officers are coming together. It must be that there's some real unhappiness about how things have been going.
This is a great coalition because it's not just, it's not just UPS. It's not just movie Teamsters. It's Teamsters from a wide variety of different divisions in the state of California. And all of us coming together, I believe, is going to show the rank and file membership across the United States that we have the power, that these people work for us and they can't intimidate us. They can't retaliate against us, because if they do, we're going to form a coalition to take you out of office because you are not doing and maintaining your fiduciary responsibility to the membership. You are there at our behest, and we've put you in that position by electing you to that position. That position is not guaranteed, and that's what seems to be happening under this IBT International administration, is that a lot of these local leadership think that nobody should be able to run against them, should stand up and speak out against them. And if they do, then they're going to take away your career. They're going to affect you, your work, your family. I mean, they need to remember we're the rank and file. We have families, we have children, and they're attacking us just for standing up and being strong Teamsters. And that is wrong.
And is that part of the problem in the labor movement, that people are afraid, that people are intimidated? They're not involved in their unions. They're afraid if they do get involved, they'll have problems with their job, fighting both management and their own union officials?
Yeah, I believe that's where we've really come to in the past 10 years in the Teamsters, is that it used to be the Teamsters stood up and fought the corporations in America, and that was our main fight. But right now we're fighting on two fronts. We're fighting these mega corporations in America for good contracts, for equal pay, for keeping jobs in America. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we're fighting our own leadership, who thinks they're so entrenched that they should never be challenged. And if you do challenge them, they're going to ruin you and ruin your career. And so we need to get back to the roots of what being a Teamster union is about in America. And that is coming together, everybody, the leadership, the rank and file, the business agents, the shop stewards, and we all stand up, and we stand up to corporate America. And we don't have to fight our own leadership. Right now I have an example of having to fight your own leadership. Sean O'Brien, during my election, he has these 3 guys that work for him, which from my understanding, they're ex-Boston police officers, and they came out here to intimidate our membership and to intimidate some of my supporters. And we're pulling them in for interviews, asking them very leading questions of, well, if you know something about this, you better tell me, because if you don't, I would hate to see your 26-year career go down the drain. What is that? That's our general president sicking his own police force on the membership of the Teamsters across the United States. That's wrong. That is wrong across the board.
And the unions are under attack. Federal workers lost their union recognition by the federal government. I was at the rally in Sacramento fighting that Sean O'Brien spoke about, UPS saying that he'd stopped AI and robotics at UPS. The idea that you can stop robotics and AI is highly suspicious. I mean, these companies are using this really to get rid of workers. It seems like that's the drive right now. How is labor going to confront that? Because it's not just one industry, it's not just one union. It seems like all workers are facing this AI threat.
I know the very rally you're talking about in Sacramento, and actually our principal officer, Secretary Treasurer Lindsay Doherty, put on an absolutely horrendous show at that rally, and she embarrassed our local up there. And but here's my stand on that: we took a loss that day. We took a loss because they did approve for autonomous trucks to be running on California roads with no driver in the cockpit. And we did take a loss. We have to regroup in the face of a loss and learn that we regroup and we come back at this in a different direction. You can't just stand on the steps of the Capitol and throw a tantrum, as our principal officer did in that situation, because then that has lasting effects that trickle down to, the movie industry and our members across the board. So I think we need to be smart. We're going to take some losses in this situation with AI, and we have to have the smartest and the brightest minds in there to try and fight this legislation that is going to allow AI trucks to take over good trucking jobs in America. And we have to keep fighting. Sometimes we're going to win and sometimes we're going to lose, but we have to keep moving forward and be prepared and bring the best and the brightest to bear against that incoming technology.
And it seems like it's not just truck drivers, it's longshore workers, it's nurses, it's teachers. I mean, they want to make a lot of money by getting rid of workers who do the work.
Yeah, I don't understand what their plan is, because if you automate every job, what's the population of the planet going to do? Are you just going to, hand out money to everybody? Where's the money going to come from? It just doesn't. The math is not mathing on AI and how they say it's going to make everybody's lives better. I enjoy working. I enjoy getting up and going to work and putting in an honest day's work to provide for my family. And if you take away all the good jobs in America, what are us Americans going to do? So we have to start looking at this and working with our representatives on a state level, on a federal level, and we have to really look at AI and be smart about how we're battling it.
And this effort to get democratic elections in many of the locals now, it seems like that it's going to be up to the government, the politicians, to actually enforce the law if there are violations. And I
Yeah.
think that's what you're saying. If there are violations, which you apparently have discovered with an unlicensed company doing these elections, that raised the question of investigating that company and shutting that company down.
Yeah, we're going to bring a lot of hard evidence, and the one piece of evidence is obviously Unilect standing. But I believe they need to look at the election results from every local that has been ran by a Unilect, and I'm seeing a lot of patterns in the ballot counts and how many ballots were returned, and these patterns are just too exact. Our union has sent out about 5,500 ballots. They received back, and I don't have it exactly in front of me, but about 1,700 ballots. The incumbent counted 1,100 of those ballots for them and about 400 for us, a little more, little less. But I'm seeing this pattern across the board. I see, 2010 has almost 20,000 members, and their return ballot count was almost the exact same number that our return ballot count was. So we need to look at these election results paperwork that Unilect gives to all of these locals, and we need to start comparing the percentages, because there's definite patterns showing up in the election ballot count numbers that are just, they're too close to be coincidental. 75%, 80% to the incumbent, 20 to 25% for the opposition slate, and you see this pattern time after time after time. And then we need, we need to look at some of the statements of the principal officers. Our principal officer said that our pre-election protest cost them $50,000. They didn't show us any receipts on where that money was spent. And I started thinking, I wonder if this is a pay-to-play company and you had to kind of write some excuses on where some money went, and that's an awful convenient way to tell your membership we had to spend $50,000, but then you write it off as something else. We need to look at some of these things. I don't have any hard evidence of that, but these allegations that they're making of pre-election protest costs, when numerous people on this coalition have worked in local offices as business agents, as part of the e-board, and they said none of their pre-election protests in any other election cycle cost anywhere near $50,000. They said the girls in the front office type a response letter on the union letterhead, and they put it back in the mail and return it to the protesting slate, and basically that's how it goes down. It doesn't cost anything. Where'd that $50,000 go? What did they spend that on?
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking with Michael Sparks. He was a candidate along with others in Local 399 and is part of a newly formed coalition of Teamster locals in California who are questioning the process of their election run by a company called Unilect, which doesn't have a license to operate in California. yet is running elections in Teamster and other union elections. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Good. Okay, this is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek, and we're covering the developments in the Teamster Union in California. There are a number of locals in California that feel that their election process has been tainted, and the election company, Unilect, that was hired to do this election, they have serious questions about its operations. And we're going to be talking about some of those issues that have brought Teamsters in from throughout California together, which is really an historic development that Teamsters from throughout California have come together. So joining us.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Sedronsky. I'm a 25-year Teamster out of Local 63 in Southern California.
And
It's Norman Salceda, 10-year Teamster out of Southern California, Local 542.
maybe you can talk about your issues in your local and what brought you together as a coalition. And there's going to be a press conference that's coming Sunday in Sacramento at California Attorney General Rob Bonta's office. There are going to be some demands made of him and other officials. So what's going on?
What's happening is that there's been some shenanigans going on with our local elections. We've had several local elections out here, and Christine and I, we run a YouTube show called The Tug and Mule Show, and we did a show on that show talking about the math isn't mathing, because so we had some issues in our local election about 2 weeks prior to the actual ballot count. Some of our business agents were putting out text messages talking about how there was about 4,000 to 4,500 ballots that had come in, despite the fact that we did not have a weekly ballot count. So that information was not coming to the Bajosino slate, but the local was getting that information. But when the actual ballot count came out on the day with it, we were supposed to count the ballots, there was only 2,800 ballots that had actually come in. So there was a distinct difference between what the BAs were putting out and the actual ballot count. And it didn't make any sense. That number didn't even make any sense with what was going on in the local. So to give you a little back history, 3 years prior, there had been another slate that had ran against Randy, and we had over 5,000 members vote in that election. And we have about 14,000 members in our local right now. And so to have a significant drop of about 2,500 members from 3 years it's not really believable when the current administration has been in office for 30 years and they didn't do anything in those 3 years from when the previous slate ran to when the Bajosino slate ran to improve the local or to change how they run the local. In fact, it had gotten worse. The business agents were never in the barn. The representation had gotten extremely worse. The contracts had gotten worse. And just the overall lack of education and the lack of leadership in the local had seriously degraded over the 3 years. And Christine and I had done shows with several members that had been supporters of Randy for over 30 years. And they actually came on our show and talked about how they no longer were going to support him, that they had decided that they were done, that it was time for change in Local 63, and it was time to have new leadership. And this was a common theme going on during the Bajosino slate. We had several crafts reach out to us and want to meet with the Bajosino slate, and very high seniority people in varying crafts that wanted to meet with us and reaching out to us. And they were also calling Sam and Randy and letting them know that just out of respect to tell them that, I've supported you for years, but I'm no longer going to be able to support you. And then on the day of the ballot count, lo and behold, there was very minimal members that had voted. And then the results were ridiculous. Basically the results were 60-30 to the K-Mac Stewart slate. And that just did not reflect what from any previous elections, nor did it reflect what the members in our local had really been expressing to us, on top of other things that we had seen going on with the company Unilect that had been doing during the prior to and during the actual ballot count, and the things that we had experienced with them during the election.
To answer your question, what brought us together is a good question. So I want to go back to 2022 because that directly correlates to how we all came together. So 2022, I a candidate for the president spot. We had mailers, we had handwritten promises to the membership. We were out there, we pushed. We had run a delegate election before that. We're very active and we're pushing extremely hard out there, at the gates with the membership, and we can hear it. You can hear it from the members. They wanted change. There was a strong buzz that the membership was a win, and that's what we were hearing. Obviously, they have their support, but we were just hearing it more often than not. And the day of the ballot count, it was 48.98 membership members to 51.02. It's one of those things where it's so just so close. We couldn't make sense of it. We wholeheartedly believed that we had the win. We pushed all the way through till the end, and we couldn't make sense of it. So we were trying to figure out what was going on. But later on, after the post-election protests and everything, it was discovered that we had translucent ballots, and that was one of the things that really struck us to really look into. Did we wholeheartedly believe that we lost? Was it even a fair election? And at the end of the day, it wasn't a fair election for any member in 2022 at Local 542 because the secrecy of the ballots were compromised, and that was an issue. So we were able. We still have we have a tangible ballot. We actually have proof. So this isn't conjecture. We have that, and that stuck with us because we heard it from the members that there was change. Change was coming, and that day, it just the numbers weren't there, and they didn't add up. So we were running. We were again. So we just ran 2022. Wednesday was just our election, and something that was odd is we went from the total return ballots vote were between both slates were 1,625 to ballots that were cast in 2025 to 927. So that's a significant drop in membership being active in voting. And we read an article from Workers Linked Together. So our group was always looking, is anybody else having this problem? And we've seen that. And that's to answer your question, what brought us here together. We've seen that. Rosemary reached out to one of the guys that I ran with last time, Derek Correa, and we didn't believe that we're crazy. Like there's no way that you hear it from the members, the people that are actually voting, the rank and file. And the numbers just don't add up. So we reached out, and that's when we all started figuring out, this isn't just a one-off isolated incident, that there's some questionable issues that are arising with this election company, and they're legitimate as well.
And did you contact the International and let them know that this was an issue, that you were concerned about the validity of the election? You had concerns about the election process?
Yes, I contacted. So we were going to wait to see if they were going to have.
We have all been contacting.
So I contacted my executive board, principal officer, Joint Council 42, and the International before our ballots were printed, because I was concerned. Once I realized Unilect was going to run this election again, I was receiving texts from members. They were concerned, are we going to go through the see-through ballot thing again? There was actually some profanity used in there, but I'll just keep it PG. And so we were going to see if any of us could make it to the ballot printing to see if they were going to be using the same paper, what the opacity was, if they're translucent still. But nobody can make it. So the ballots were being printed on November 10th. So I sent an email to my principal officer addressing this issue, CC, Joint Council 42, and the International. And it did something. They changed from 2022 to our 2025. And speaking with other locals, I guess we were the only local that had a cross-hash blue contrast inside the ballot, the secret ballot envelope. But as far as getting any response, there was the only response I received was from my principal officer, he also sits on the Joint Council 42, Jaime Vasquez, and it was pretty much, there's nothing wrong with it, but we noted your concern, and if you want, you can bring it up to the International, or you can go to the Department of Labor, as we have in the past.
And this is the same company that ran the election in 2022, Unilect.
Yes.
I mean, comparing notes of all these other locals, I apparently people started comparing notes and said there were similarities in the way they conducted the election that raised concerns.
Well, and that's why. So what happened was, we had problems in our local election, and I saw the protests that Derek or that Norman had filed at 542, and then I also saw the protests online that Mariana had filed, and some of the people inside of our slate from the Bajosino slate had been reaching out to Michael Sparks at 399, and we had been in contact with some of the other locals as well, and so I knew that there were issues with all of these contacts, and that's where I contacted everybody and asked if they wanted to just get together and start talking about this, because I realized at that point that there was definitely a problem, because we were all having similar issues with the transparent or translucent ballots and being able to see through them. That wasn't a huge issue in our election this time around, with the inconsistency of just the numbers, with a lot of issues with the Unilect and the people that run Unilect, and from the beginning to the end. So there's a lot of similar issues that we have all seen throughout the entire election process. And that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we had all gotten together to see, that like Norman said, that we're not crazy, that we're actually seeing that there is, in fact, inconsistencies going on, and there is, in fact, there's corruption going on there. We have a problem out here in the West, and there is significant corruption going on in local elections. And it's not all of the elections, but we do have leaders out here that are willing to steal these elections from the members. And this is the problem, is that these are supposed to be democratic elections. They're supposed to be for the members. And these leaders take an oath that they're going to represent the members, and they're going to serve at the members' behest. And that's not what they're doing. They're making sure that these elections are set up so that they make sure that they maintain their power and their money and their control of these locals. And they do it by stealing these elections from the members. And this is what is destroying the unions. And it's a problem in California, and I have a reason to believe it could be a problem in other areas as well, but it's a huge problem in California.
And Unilect, it doesn't have a license to operate. It's been suspended. Why is it running the elections?
That's the $1 million question right now. Why are local leaders that have a fiduciary responsibility to vet these companies bringing in a company that is suspended in California? That's the big question. And that's what needs to be answered. And I don't believe that any of these principal officers that sit in these locals that have been in office for so long can say that they didn't know. That's not an excuse, because you took an oath and you are fiduciarily responsible for the local. And so if you didn't know, then you're responsible and you need to be held accountable. If you did know, then you're responsible and you're culpable. So either way, you're culpable. And the IBT needs to hold every one of these principal officers responsible for having elections with a organization that has been suspended and for a significant amount of time. It wasn't hard to find out that they were suspended. So, but they don't care. It's not about whether or not Unilect is suspended. It's about whether or not Unilect is willing to be bought, you know, for a, you know, that's it's they're willing to do things that are not above board. And that's the problem, is that some of their elections are they are they're it's shenanigans. It's all shenanigans. And we see it. You see it in the numbers. I was at 542's ballot count. That was full of shenanigans. It was worse than mine, and mine was awful. It's so bad, and it's in your face. These principal officers, they're so arrogant. They stick it right in your face because they're trying to send a message to us that are willing to stand up against them and say, "Hey, you don't do this again. Don't." And any member who would try or think about it, don't even bother. And that's not the message we received. The message we received was, "Fuck off. We're coming. No, you're not going to get away with this. We're not going to stand down, and we're fucking coming."
And Norman, you got a shirt there. It says members for members 542. What do you want the union to do to represent the members?
I would like them to do the same that we all have to do as hardworking rank and file members, which is be accountable and not forget who they truly serve. That's what I want them to do. I actually want them not to act like we owe them something. You know, my hardworking brothers and sisters actually show up like we have to show up every single day to work, punch in and punch out. We can't come in late. You know, we we have to show up every day, and we have to perform our jobs. And if we don't, we're held accountable. You know, the company's always there, and I want them to do the same. You know, I want them to be accountable and true leaders, not dictators. That's what I would love. I would love for them not to attack the rank and file members who just want a better union. Us running against our local union isn't to break down the union. It's to show the members that we do have rights. And if you feel that you deserve more and you want better, then stand up and get involved. Education. I really want them to educate the members. A lot of members are in the dark. You know, I would love for the union to be, you know, more accountability, education, accountability, and overall what we pay them to do with our dues. Representation, be there for the members and represent them and not their self-serving interest.
And one of the issues in Southern California, particularly, is the role of ICE, the National Guard, coming into Los Angeles, grabbing people, immigrants, citizens. Are you concerned about what's happening to particularly the Latino community, the brown community in California?
Yeah, that's always a concern when we all, as human beings, should have unalienable rights, like rights that just human beings. So, I mean, that's always a concern, just as, you know, not as a specific group, just as in general as how we are treated as human beings. You know, if people know their history, there's a lot of immigrants in this country.
Immigrants built the United States.
So, yes, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, because I know that as far as truck drivers, they're attacking the Sikh truck drivers, taking their licenses away. It seems like there's a lot of retaliation against immigrants, targeting them, and making it very difficult for immigrants in this country. And California has millions of immigrants.
I think that there definitely needs to be a change in the leadership, and that's one of the issues that needs to be addressed, is that we have union members that are worried about exactly what you're talking about. And so we need to definitely address these issues on a bigger scale. So, and this is one of the things that needs to be addressed with better leadership in the locals, you know, out here in the West. We need to address all of these issues, as well as what Norman was talking about. The members deserve education. They deserve to be empowered. They deserve to have representation that is going to fight for them on the shop floor, that is going to stand up against the companies, that is going to stand up against corporations, and is going to stand up and fight for them the way we always have, as where the Teamsters came from. You know, the Teamsters was a fighting group. They stood up and they made laws. They established so much for the working class, and we've gone so far away from that in the current leadership that we have in a lot of these locals. And every single person that is involved in this coalition right now, every single local that's involved in this coalition that has stood up, these are rank and file members. These are people that go to work every single day. But the one thing that we have unified in common is that we are all Teamsters that absolutely believe in what it is to be a brotherhood, what it is to be unified, what it is in solidarity. And we believe in the union, but we also believe that it has to be ran by leaders who are going to lead for the members, that the members are first, that there needs to be we need to have a union that is going to fight for the members and not for their own money and their own power. There has to be a shift in the union. We have lost what our union was meant to be, and we must bring that back. This needs to be about exactly what Norman's slate is: members for members, just like the Bajosino, power for all. Every single one of these slate names is about the members, and that's what this has to get back to. Because unless we get back to the members, the people, the working class, we're going to lose it all, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
I feel it's important to emphasize is when you have people who wake up, they go to work and to make a living, and you have a union that you believe in that's supposed to, you know, fight for you and protect. When you come to the realization that they're not, it's just another way to cash in on the hardworking people of this country, specifically Teamsters. It's demoralizing. And how are you supposed to organize and build your union to grow when you're not even taking care of your own home? You have to take care of the members you have and show this country that this is a great union, you know. But when you're fighting this uphill battle against your own union, your own representatives, it's very demoralizing to the rank and file members, and that's turns into frustration. And then they just end up you know, you build this culture of apathy, which at the end of the day is detrimental to, you know, the working class people, because then you feel like you have no power. All these rights that we have from the National Labor Relations Act and the Department, you know, you have very little hope in the system that's actually supposed to be there to protect you. So I want to see this union get pushed into a different direction, and I hope that the leadership at top doesn't turn a blind eye to it anymore, and it's actually there for the members.
And do you think the members are waking up in your local?
Yes. Up until this most recent election, the numbers didn't lie. They were going up every year. You could see the participation and the members waking up and being active. And I believe that Rosie touched on it, that this was a message. Quit standing up. You know, this would demoralize anybody who wants to continue movement, you know, to, you know, education and fighting for stronger representation within our union.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Why don't you go on, Norman, about UPS? What's happening?
So when I talk to my fellow Teamster brothers and sisters, and try to educate them that the future is now, and how when I first started in 2015, I want to say within I think 2 years of being there, there was two machines that were implemented upstairs. They were automated machines, and I watched those two machines take away at the most 4 jobs, and then come to our most recent contract in 2023. I was concerned because a lot of the part-timers, and I'm seeing it now, we're going 2 years, over 2 years in this contract, a lot of the part-timers, because of the consolidation of buildings and automation, they're losing the jobs at a significant rate. And that's concerning, because when I am talking to my brothers and sisters, like, it's not going to stop at the part-time. This is not about us and our futures and our families. It's about a bottom line. And that's it's not something in the future. It's happening now, and it's just a matter of time. I read an article, pretty sure it was at Amazon, I think, was it Revlon. They have humanoid robots with the electric vehicles, and they're trying to get this system to where robots are doing the driving and delivering. And that's something I think we all should be concerned about, because when you replace something that doesn't need healthcare, somebody with, you have human beings, you need hourly rates, you need breaks, you need healthcare, and you use technology to replace that. That only benefits the people at the top and their bottom line. And I try to let people understand that if we don't stand up now, it's just a matter of time before that's what our future is going to hold, and jobs are going to dwindle, and we're going to be fighting against, where it's actually happening right now, but they're going to expedite the process as soon as they're capable of doing it. It's an issue.
And it looks like the DMV, the California Public Utilities Commission, is going to approve these autonomous trucks. Trucks are more than 10,000 pounds without a driver. I mean, that's going to affect a lot of workers, a lot of drivers, besides the health and safety issues. But I mean, it's a threat to millions of workers in this country, drivers, delivery. I mean, it seems like this is an existential thing. If they can replace workers, they'll do it for more profits, as you were saying, Norman.
I
Well,
believe the only reason.
the company has already shut down, multiple hubs, hundreds of hubs across the nation. They shut down a major sort at my hub, and we have driverless bulk carts now in my facility, and we're using a lot of automation in my facility. And I know that they're restructuring a lot of facilities for automation. And so there's been a lot of transitions in jobs and stuff like that. So we're definitely seeing the changes right before our eyes, and it's just a matter. And they're testing all kinds of driverless mules or goats, or what, yard dogs, or however they refer to them across the nation. And so they're testing all kinds of different avenues so that they can eliminate the human aspect of the job. And that's really what's going on. And so this is, again, it goes back to that leadership that is needed. And we need to have strong contracts. We need to have strong language. It can't just be about money anymore. The members need to understand. And this is where it goes back into education. We must educate the members so that they understand that these contracts can't just be about a bottom line and money. It has to be about language. We need to start fortifying our contracts with language that is going to protect our jobs from AI, from these various kinds of advancements that these companies want to put in there to eliminate the human aspect of our jobs. That's not acceptable, because what's going to happen if they start replacing all these jobs? where are we going to work? What's going to happen to all these people? Where are they going to go? It's ridiculous. But I've known Derek and Norman for a really long time. And I know one of the things that they do that we do out here is we really try and educate the part-timers. And one of the things that's bothered me over the years is a lot of people like to say that part-timers at UPS don't vote. They don't participate. That's not true. They do. It's just there's a huge turnover for part-timers. So you have to get to the part-timers that are there, that are going to stay there. The ones that are coming and going and going through the swivel door. Well, no, those ones aren't going to vote because they didn't stay. But the ones that stay, they vote, they participate. And we know that because we know them. We work with them and we deal with them every day. And every member matters. And every member, it needs to be educated and they need to be empowered and they need to know how important everything is that we have, from our contract to our pension to our health care to every part of the union. But they also, like you were saying, Steve, they need to know the history of the union. They need to understand how important it is and everything that the people before us fought and died for, and everything that they have given us and what we have today, and why it's so important to continue organizing and to continue building the union. We need to build more unions. More companies need to become union. And we need to make stronger laws that allow us to organize better, because this is ridiculous. We get fought on every aspect when it comes to organizing, yet we need better protection for the working class. We're getting beat down on a regular basis. And while we get beat down, the corporations are making billions of dollars. And when is enough enough? How much do you need? Why can't you pay the working class a decent wage? We're not asking for all your money, but we're asking to be able to put food on the table for our children, to keep our lights on in our house, to have a roof over our head, to have a decent retirement. We don't want to work till we're dead. We're not asking for a lot, but I think that we deserve this because, like Norman said, we go to work every day. We show up on time and we do our job. We deserve to be paid a reasonable amount of money to do that. We deserve to be respected as the workers in your companies. And right now that's not happening, but we need leadership who's going to fight for that. And it goes hand in hand. And that's what's really important. And right now we don't have that in our union. And we're sure as shit aren't getting it on the shop floor.
And AI, automated systems, robots, they won't ask for all that. So that's the main
Right?
motive for these
Yeah.
corporations to push those types of systems. And
Yeah.
it's in our face. I watched it happen. There was a automated building just built right here in North County, part of San Diego, and I'm hearing it. I'm seeing it. So it's not something that's going to happen in the future. It's happening right now. And it's just a matter of time before, you're losing, these are just percentages, 10% of your workforce to AI. And then it's, automation, and then it turns into 15, then it's 20. And then next thing you know, you're looking around, where did half of the workforce go, And
that's going to destroy your pension plans too.
Yeah.
When they get rid of all these workers, it's going to undermine your entire pension structure for every worker.
Yeah. And it's not just the shipping industry. They're coming after Hollywood. They're coming after everybody. They're going to go after the grocery stores. They're going to go after everybody. They want to get rid of the working people and replace us with AI. And it's like, it's slowly coming. But if we don't start fighting now, it's going to be there so fast that it's going to be too late. You're being warned today. Stand up. It's time. It's time that the working people of America stand up and say enough is enough. And you either do it today or tomorrow you're going to wake up and realize that you've lost. Because once it's here and it's moving, we're not going to be able to stop it. We either stop it now or we're done. And that's why we came together. That's why we as a coalition came together, because we said enough is enough. We're not going to stand and allow our union to be destroyed by corrupt leaders when we know we do have good men in our union. We have good leaders in our union. Not all of them are bad, but the ones that are bad, they need to get the fuck out. And they need to get the fuck out yesterday.
Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us. And this is an important issue, not just for Teamsters, for all workers, what they're facing in this country. And a lot of issues that have to be addressed and confronted if working people are going to survive. So thanks for joining us on Work Week.